I fear you will not indeed agree to do this deed, and I alone shall have to pay the penalty of a great sin.
And they all answered him and said,
Let us all swear an oath, and all bind ourselves by mutual imprecations not to abandon this plan, but to do this thing.
Then swore they all together, and bound themselves by mutual imprecations upon it. Hello and welcome. This is the Succubus Scholar, and today I shall be covering the Princess of the Secret Ara, Naamah. First, I would provide you listener with a warning. To understand Naamah, one must understand the times before the Deluge, made so famous by the story of Noah's Ark. This is often known as the antediluvian age, and alas, many people today who have a craving for the end of days assume the people of then were punished for being as greedy as the capitalist culture of today. The modern age is nothing like those times, however, and the sins of that period were far, far worse than what we experience today. Picture the worst depravities of Sodom and Gomorrah, times that by 100 and as a worldwide culture, rather than just the 5 cities. As such, listener, I will have to touch upon some of these dark acts, so consider yourselves warned. The antediluvian people were also not like the mortals of today. They did not suffer the wants and needs we suffer now. Their lifespans extended through to the centuries. They wanted for little and enjoyed bodies free of the ailments common amongst modern mortals. This proto-form of humanity is common in mythology throughout the world, such as the races of Ireland or the golden people of Greek myth. Much like many of those myths, this lack of suffering is what is commonly attributed to their stagnation and decline. Though as we shall see, there are other factors that led to this. In biblical mythology, there were predominantly 2 peoples of this age. Those descended from Seth, settled in where Eden once lay, and those of the line of Cain, the first murderer, who had settled in what is now modern-day Damascus. Unsurprisingly, the line of Cain was considered cursed, and the source of many ills. Their foremost was their predilection towards violence. In Genesis 4:24, Lamech would announce excitedly after killing someone, "If Cain shall be avenged sevenfold, truly Lamech 70 and sevenfold." This in reference to Cain's curse that marked him as a murderer, yet protected him from being murdered himself. The Sefer HaYashar suggests that the person Lamech killed was Cain himself by accident, followed by his own son after a fit of fury. The statement in Genesis being him trying to prevent his wives from turning away from him. I say wives, for polygamy was a common trait in this age also. Lamech had married 2 sisters, Ada, meaning to bedecked, and Zillah, meaning shadow. In the work In the Image of God by Antonelli, this is expounded upon. It was a custom of men from that age to take 2 wives, one for childbearing, in this case Ada, and another for sexual gratification, to which Zillah played the role. Much like the supermodels of today, the antediluvians considered thin women as the ideal beauty, and saw the pregnant form as ugly in their roundness, causing these wives to live like widows. The one taken for gratification would bedeck themselves in alluring attire, and frequently partook of a potion, the Mashker Akarot, to keep them barren and to preserve their beauty. Ada would give Lamech 2 sons. However, the Mashker Akarot would fail, and Zillah too would bear the 7th generation of Cain. One would be Tubal Cain, a genius artificer of bronze and iron, and our main subject today, Naamah. And in the end of days and years, when Zillah became old, the Lord opened her womb, and she conceived and bare a son, and she called his name Tubal Cain, saying, "After I had withered away, have I obtained him from the Almighty God." And she conceived again, and bare a daughter, and she called her name Naamah, for she said, "After I had withered away, have I obtained pleasure and delight." Sefer HaYashar 2:23-25. The meaning and reason behind Naamah's given name is much debated, but generally all share the same attributes. The most popular theory is that it means the charmer, highlighting her seductive and pleasing nature. A variety of sources claim she earned the name by enticing men with her play of instruments such as the cymbals or drums to lure people into the worship of false idols. There are some dissenting opinions claiming that she was a genius artificer like her brother, or she was named because she was pious and was the same Naamah who would be the wife of Noah. I agree with the majority that this is unlikely, for reasons we shall see as we continue. For the most part, her name conjures the figure of a priestess, who lured people with her beauty and talent into the worship of false gods. The antediluvian women were incredibly beautiful, but Naamah was generally considered to possess beauty of a whole different level. She was monstrously beautiful, in a manner that cannot be pictured today, and engaged in practices that should have earned them scorn from the celestial watchers above. But the Midrash Haggadol reveals that they were instead enticed by what they saw, learning of desires they never knew they had. Naamah, the lovely sister of Tubal Cain, led the angels astray with her beauty. And from her union with Shandon sprang the devil Asmodeus. She was as shameless as all the other descendants of Cain, and as prone to bestial indulgences. Cainite women and Cainite men alike were in the habit of walking abroad naked, and they gave themselves up to every conceivable manner of lewd practices. Of such were the women whose beauty and sensual charms tempted the angels from the path of virtue. The angels, on the other hand, no sooner had they rebelled against God and descended to earth, than they lost their transcendental qualities, and when vested with sublunary bodies, so that a union with the daughters of men became possible. The Legend of the Jews, Volume 1, Ginsburg. Taking on earthly bodies, the leader of these 200 angels, Samyaza, swore them all to an oath, and together they landed upon Mount Hermon. From there they would go seeking to satiate their newly realised lusts upon these women, one of whom was Naamah. Each watcher would have his own woman he desired. It is revealed, as stated in Tree of Souls by Howard Schwartz, that Samyaza desired the pious Istahar, whilst Azazel would seek Naamah. Both women would use their wiles to obtain secret knowledge from these celestial beings. Istahar would attain from Samyaza the Tetragrammaton, the secret name of God, and just as Lilith did in the alphabet of Ben Sira, she would say it aloud to fly up and escape Samyaza's clutches, becoming a star, no doubt a tale inspired from the star goddess of Mesopotamia, Ishtar. Naamah, however, would use her seductions for a more earthly gain. And Azazel taught men to make swords, and knives, and shields, and breastplates, and made known to them the metals of the earth and the art of working them, and bracelets, and ornaments, and the use of antimony, and the beautifying of the eyelids, and all kinds of costly stones, and all colouring tinctures. And there arose much godlessness, and they committed fornication, and they were led astray, and became corrupt in all their ways. The Book of Enoch, Chapter 8. From Azazel, Naamah would gain for her people the means of superior weaponry, but also the means of emphasising her beauty even further, with cosmetics and jewellery. Perhaps it was at this point, as she admired herself in the mirror with her new knowledge, that Lilith's presence took even deeper root, possibly to the point that Lilith could fully possess her body. There is no text that I could find that states the point where Naamah becomes aligned with Lilith, but I have my suppositions. In the occultic community, Naamah is generally regarded as the mother of divination, being the originator of this practice, as part of her talents in this time. As noted in an earlier video, there are texts revealing that working with the entities of the lesser palaces provides prophetic visions. I believe in doing this, Naamah would have encountered Lilith, who from this early stage would have begun exerting her influence upon the antediluvian. Perhaps this was a result of using mirrors, a common instrument for divination. There are plenty of sources, such as in Lilith's Cave by Howard Schwartz, that reveals Lilith and her kin can use mirrors like doorways to possess young women and leading them into promiscuous lives. And this Naamah became aroused and adhered to her evil side. Zohar 37:6b. Certainly, it was in these earliest days that she would begin working with Lilith, for Adam, the first man, was still alive at this time. Aggrieved by Cain murdering his son Abel, he had separated from Eve, and in this period both Lilith and Naamah would leap upon the opportunity to take his precious genetic material to bring forth their own offspring. For 130 years, Adam kept separate from his wife and did not beget. After Cain killed Abel, Adam did not want to copulate with his wife. Rabbi Yosef said, "From the hour in which death was decreed upon him and upon the whole world, he said, 'Why should I beget children?' For terror," and instantly separated from his wife. And two female spirits, Lilith and Naamah, would come and copulate with him and bear children. And those whom they bore are evil spirits of the world, who are called the plagues of mankind. And they lead the sons of man astray, and dwell in the doorway of the house, and in the cisterns, and in the latrines. Zohar 37:6b. Using the Lilith chronology, Adam would pass away well before the Deluge and the coming of the Grigori, which means this passage revealed Lilith began influencing Naamah and her kin well before the Nephilim rose. Many see Naamah as either the sister or daughter to Lilith. I have always felt Lilith to have a motherly tendency towards Naamah, having taken her under her wing to learn her ways. But as we shall see, it was not purely out of motherly love. Lilith had a place for Naamah in her designs, a fate that the antediluvian Naamah might have shied from had she known. But for now, she would enjoy her place as the most desired woman of the antediluvian world. Unsurprisingly, Naamah would not just know Azazel's affections. The text mentioned earlier, as well as a statement by Rabbi Bo, would reveal she copulated with the Grigori Shamdan, the union of which would bring forth Ashmedai, who would go on to today become Asmodeus, a king amongst demons. No doubt the people of both Seth and Cain were delighted initially with these star beings that brought with them knowledge that made their lives even more luxurious. But this would soon end as a product of their intermingling bloodlines arose. The woman would begin bearing forth the Nephilim, half angel, half human people who would grow to become like the Titans of Greek mythology. Larger than their mortal king, they were capable of great martial prowess and would grow to become rulers of their people. In the Book of Giants, one of these would be revealed to be Gilgamesh, the half-hero god of Sumerian mythology, but they would not bring prosperity to their land, far from it. And they became pregnant, and they bare great giants, whose height was 3,000 ells, who consumed all the acquisitions of men. And when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind. And they began to sin against birds, and beasts, and reptiles, and fish, and to devour one another's flesh, and drink the blood. The Book of Enoch, chapter 7. The offspring of the angels grew and grew, consuming more and more, and when the people could not give more, they began consuming the people instead, as well as committing acts of bestiality to satiate their lusts and making grievous war upon one another. Semyaza would have two sons, Hia and Hawa, who consumed 1,000 camels and oxen daily. It grew to the point where the earth reeked with the scent of carcasses. Perhaps out of despair, even the people of Seth would fall into the habits of the people of Cain. The difference being they would claim nobility from being descended from the pious Seth, even though their bloodlines had become intermingled. All these accounts make for a bleak portrait. Giants were making war and eating mortals as a delicacy, treating them like cattle and performing vile acts to satiate their urges. The people of Cain, Naamah leading under Lilith's influence, were worshipping false gods and committing depraved acts to satiate their bestial impulses. And now the people of Seth partook of these vices. The land was growing more and more barren as people struggled to keep their Nephilim masters fed, lest they instead be on the platter, the air filled with the reek of decay. The archangels, Michael, Uriel, Raphael and Gabriel, looked down on all this in horror and, eventually, persuaded the Most High to intervene. So preparations for the deluge began, but even then the Book of Giants reveals that a final chance was sent to the people in the form of dreams to the Nephilim. Semyaza's sons, Hira and Haya, would be amongst those to report these warnings, and a great council of Grigori and Nephilim would be held to try and discern their meaning. It would be the prophet Enoch who would explain they needed to repent of their evil ways or a terrible calamity would befall them. Ultimately, they did not change, and after having Enoch send their petition for clemency that would be duly declined, would they find themselves a reckoning. First to suffer would be the tainted angels, the Grigori. Semyaza, in some texts, was repentant and would not suffer the same as his brethren, being held between the heaven and the earth. But in most accounts, he and his associates would be punished thus. And the Lord said unto Michael, Go, bind Semyaza and his associates, who have united themselves with women, so as to have defiled themselves with them in all their uncleanness. And when their sons have slain one another, and they have seen the destruction of their beloved ones, bind them fast for 70 generations in the valleys of the earth, till the day of their judgment and of their consummation, till the judgment that is for ever and ever is consummated. In those days they shall be led off to the abyss of fire, and to the torment and prison in which they shall be confined for ever. The Book of Enoch, chapter 10. So it was they were forced to watch their sons kill one another without their guidance, before being locked away within the earth. The punishment was harsher for Azazel, who was completely unrepentant, For his desire of Naamah, he would be chained in the darkness, in the desert of Judea, trapped there until the day of judgment rather than the 70 generations sentenced to the others. The giants slain in the flood would become spirits that plague mankind to this day, punished with forever knowing hunger and thirst but never satiating them. This is often given as the origin of the spirits said to dwell in the desert wastelands. Some would survive, however. The Nephilim, Og, would gain passage on Noah's Ark and become king of Bashan before meeting his demise. But what of Naamah and her ilk? Well, the Book of Enoch offers an answer to this. And the women also of the angels who went astray shall become sirens. The Book of Enoch, chapter 19. Sirens are linked to the sea with their half-woman, half-fish guise, luring sailors to their deaths with their mesmerising singing. Perhaps the women, learning forbidden arts from the angels, turned themselves into these creatures to survive the flood, if not changed via a curse from on high. Earlier mythology also depicts sirens as half-woman, half-bird rather than fish. This could be seen as a tenuous link between the succubi and siren mythology. Certainly some of the famous sirens of myth, Melusine and Lorelei for example, share similar traits to the Lilith. Succubi are often said to have bird-like forms, as well as dwelling near or in the sea, much like the sirens. This would fit with Naamah's ability to lure with her talent for music and seduction. How Naamah escaped the deluge precisely is never given. Perhaps she did not, and it is her spirit that Lilith swooped in to claim. Or perhaps the means of using mirrors as a doorway was revealed to her, and Naamah was given shelter in Lilith's realm. In Donald Tyson's Liber Lilith, it is stated she gained the power to fly away, much like a siren with bird-like traits, after committing incest with both her father and brother in the same night. Naamah put on her enticements and seduced her brother Tubal Cain to lie with her. Likewise, she used her allurements to arouse the lust of Lamech, and when she had coupled with her father and received his seed upon the seed of her brother, she put on wings of darkness and flew away laughing in the wickedness of her heart. Liber Lilith by Donald Tyson. Whatever happened to her during the deluge, it would be generally agreed that Naamah transformed, no longer antediluvian but succubus demon. And thus, if not known before, Lilith's plan for her would be realised now. All, the four queens of the demons, Lilith, Igrat, Mahalath and Naamah, and all their cohorts give birth to children, except Lilith alone, who does not bear, but is just a fornication in the world. School of Rabbi Shlomo ben Abraham. When Lilith fled to the realm of the demons, she sought to procreate with them and spawn forth countless more to overrun the world. Her main partner for this was Samael, who would be castrated to prevent this. Lilith would seek to lie with mortal men to continue her plan, but as stated in the Emek Mahalech by Bacharach, God called her, or made her infertile. So now that she could no longer bring forth countless children, her goal of supplanting the children of Adam and Eve with her own people was foiled. Or was it? Instead, it seems she would look to recruiting those same daughters she sought to supplant, the first of these being Naamah. Whatever happened during the deluge, Naamah would emerge from it still very much alive, but now a demon, a Lilith or succubus as they are called today. She, along with the others, would take on the role that Lilith could no longer fulfill herself, to realise her mother's ambition. She makes sport with the sons of man, and conceives from them through their dreams, from the male desire, and she attaches herself to them. She takes the desire and nothing more, and from that desire she conceives and brings forth all kinds of demons into the world. And those sons she bears from men visit the women of humankind, who then conceive from them and give birth to spirits. And all of them go to the first Lilith, and she brings them up. The Zohar. Naamah now spends her time fornicating and producing more demons while Lilith raises them. It is interesting that the text mentions that the newborns go to the first Lilith. That is because many texts make mention of a matron Lilith and a younger Lilith. The treatise of the left emanation identifies the matron Lilith as the Lilith we know, and the younger or lesser Lilith as husband of Naamah's son Asmodeus, daughter of the demon king Persephone and Mehetabel. In his book Sexual Alchemy, Donald Tyson actually identifies the lesser Lilith as Naamah, which would make her consort to her own son Ashmedai, which, considering the depravities of the antediluvian age, would not be beyond her. In his more renowned work, Liber Lilith, he would keep Cohen's description of the lesser Lilith for Naamah, as being formed as a woman on her top half, but a raging inferno from the waist down. Going back to her role as progenitor, Naamah not only procreates, but like Lilith, seeks to reduce the children of Adam, usually via strangulation, as stated by Rabbi Yitzhak. She was the mother of demons, for she came from the side of Cain, and she, together with Lilith, was appointed over Askara, strangulation of children. Rabbi Abba said to him, "Did you not say that she was appointed to play with people?" He answered, "True. She comes and plays with people and at times bears them spirit children, and to this day this is her task." Zohar 156a. Naamah then has dedicated herself to Lilith's cause, breeding as much as possible to one day take over this world and establish their own kingdom. Naturally, as Lilith's favoured daughter, she would be revered in the demon world and take a rightful place as royalty in this realm. In my video on Mahalath, I touched upon the quadrarchy structure of succubi. There are 4 ranking succubi at any one time, all consorts of Samael and allotted a portion of the mortal realm in which they fornicate and wreak their havoc. The entities occupying this rank vary with the exception of Lilith, the other 2 most common names being Igrat and Naamah. Rabbi Nathan Shapira would claim Naamah to be presiding over the land of Tyr. Rabbi Arama would add that she mates only with Gentiles. Before you think this is because these people have some special protection for their belief, it should be noted that the same passage remarks that Lilith has no such qualms. Rabbi Rakanti would cement Naamah's elevated status in his commentaries, saying demons born of her always evoke her during oath-taking ceremonies. On the Clephotic tree she presides over the sphere of Nahamoth, sometimes confusingly named Lilith, with her mother Lilith presiding over Gamaliel not far along the tree. Thomas Carlson identifies this sphere as the anti-world of our own, a world of primal nature and our suppressed dark aspects. It is a cacophony in contrast to our own ordered world, the shadowland that we fear to tread upon. Many modern practitioners use it as the initiating sphere, with Naamah acting as the initiatrix, inducting one onto the Sitra Ara, the night side, before establishing contact with Lilith herself. Invoking Naamah is a dangerous task, for like Lilith she ignites a Kundalini force to dangerous levels that can be hard to control, causing the unprepared to fall to sexual vices and ultimately lose focus upon their original goal. Others contact Naamah as her sphere is a realm of lust and material gain. As long as one does not lose sight of the path, she can endow the invoker with many riches, or provide the knowledge she herself gained from the Grigori. Like many of the demons of mythology, Naamah's residence is said to be found in the ocean depths, as shown in the Book of Mirrors or the Sefer Marot Hatzavot, as well as the Zohar. And Naamah exists to this day, and dwells in the depths of the great sea, and emerges and trifles with humans and seduces them in their dreams. The Sefer Marot Hatzavot. Which perhaps fits with the Book of Enoch's claim that the women of the age before the Deluge became sirens. Perhaps Lilith and Naamah's link to the sea, along with their seductive ways, did indeed play a part in the origin of these mythological creatures. Naamah continues to allure many with her incredible beauty, including the conjoined demons Castamon and Alfira, 2 demon chiefs who once warred with one another but allied and literally joined together with the coming of the people of Cain. They take many forms, one being a 2-headed serpent that swims into the great sea to try and entice Naamah onto them. And those 2 chiefs swim in the great sea, and then fly off into the night to Naamah, the mother of demons, and the first deceiver and seducer of holy angels, who after their fall took different human forms and in their turn became corruptors of mankind. They want to approach her, but she leaps away 6,000 parasangs, and assumes many shapes in the eyes of the sons of man so that they go astray after her. Zohar 19b. To this day, Naamah and her kin lurk in the shadows, on the cusp of our plane of existence, enticing and alluring, partaking of the essence of mortal man and other beings to produce newer and stranger beings that shall one day take Malkuth and bring this sphere under Lilith's fold, perhaps one day bringing forth a race that surpasses even the antediluvians in their vitality, occultic ability, virility, and cruelty. And so it is here we draw to a close. Naamah's story is still ongoing in my mind, for she continues through the eons even now, working towards seeing Lilith's vision come to pass. Before I leave you, listener, I would leave you with a final quotation from the Zohar, that reveals Naamah not only bringing forth creatures herself, but encouraging the men of Adam to do so also with their unwitting wives. At times it happens that Naamah goes forth into the world to become hot from the sons of man, and a man finds himself in a connection of lust with her, and he awakens from his sleep and takes hold of his wife and lies with her. This desire comes from that lust which he had in his dream. Then the child that he begets comes from the side of Naamah, for the man was driven by his lust for her. And when Lilith comes and sees that child, she knows what happened, and she ties herself to him and brings him up like all those other sons of Naamah. And she is with him many times, but does not kill him. This is the man who becomes blemished on every new moon, for she never gives him up. For month after month, when the moon becomes renewed in the world, Lilith comes forth and visits all those whom she brings up and makes sport with them, and therefore that person is blemished at that time. Zohar 377a. So who knows, listener, perhaps you are the product of Naamah's affectations, and Lilith is guiding you every turn of the moon, for to her you are one of her own. Thank you for listening, and I hope you gained a better understanding of Naamah from this. I was tempted to go into the rabbit hole that is the evidence of there actually having been a deluge, likely a result of a comet, as famously and controversially argued by Hancock's work The Magician of the Gods, as well as appearing in numerous other myths. But I fear I have deviated from Naamah too much already when speaking of the fates of the Grigori and Nephilim. If you have any further knowledge or experiences with Naamah, please do let me know in the comments below. She is famously easy to contact, but the danger of such contact is just as famous, as I myself can attest. If you seek to try yourself, I would urge the utmost caution and consider carefully the means you intend of doing so. But I have gone on too long and revealed too much already. I shall leave you here, listener. Until next time, may Lilith bring you pleasant dreams.